The baby monitor crackled to life at 11:47 p.m., and I heard my wife's laugh, the fake one she used at office parties when her boss told terrible jokes. I was hunched over my laptop in the basement, debugging network issues for our home office setup, when Hannah's voice drifted through the static. "Oh God, Mark, you're terrible," she giggled, followed by a sound that made me freeze. "Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories." Mark, my oldest friend since high school, the guy who'd been my best man, the same Mark who'd been coming over for work sessions with Hannah while I pulled late shifts at the IT company. I crept upstairs, each step on our creaky wooden staircase sounding like gunshots in my ears. The bedroom door was cracked open, and through the gap, I saw them. Hannah, my wife of 15 years, tangled up with Mark on our bed, the bed I'd assembled myself last Christmas. They didn't notice me at first. Hannah was laughing again, running her fingers through Mark's thinning hair. "Don't worry about Eddie," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "He's so clueless. Besides, you're snipped, so it doesn't even count as real cheating." Mark chuckled, adjusting his position. "Poor Eddie. Still thinks we're just working on those HR presentations." I pushed the door open wider. The hinges squeaked, and they both turned toward me. Hannah's face went pale, but Mark just smirked, like he'd been caught stealing cookies, not destroying my marriage. "Eddie," Hannah said, scrambling to pull the sheet up. "This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" I said, my voice eerily calm, "because it looks like my wife is screwing my best friend in our bed while discussing how stupid I am." Mark sat up, completely unashamed. "Come on, Ed. Don't be such a drama queen. We're all adults here." I stared at them both for a long moment, my mind racing. 15 years of marriage, 25 years of friendship with Mark, all of it crumbling in front of me like a house of cards. "You know what?" I said, backing toward the door. "You're right, Mark. We are all adults, which means I can make adult decisions too." I walked out, leaving them there. Behind me, I heard Hannah hissing at Mark. "You said he wouldn't be back until midnight." I grabbed my keys and headed for the garage. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw Mrs. Patterson, our nosy neighbor, peeking through her curtains. Perfect. By tomorrow, the whole neighborhood would know something was up. 3 days later, I was at Murphy's gym, pounding a heavy bag like it owed me money. Each punch sent shockwaves up my arms, but the physical pain felt good compared to the emotional wreckage in my chest. "Easy there, Rocky," said Big Dan Murphy, the gym owner. He was a mountain of a man with graying temples and hands like baseball mitts. "That bag's got a family." I stopped punching and leaned against the bag, sweat dripping onto the worn rubber mat. "My wife's cheating on me with my best friend." Dan nodded like I just told him it was raining. "Yeah, I figured it was something like that. You've been coming in here every day looking like someone stole your dog." "They think I'm an idiot," I said. "Hannah actually said it doesn't count because he's had a vasectomy." Ouch. Dan handed me a towel. "So what are you going to do about it?" "I don't know. Divorce her, I guess. Cut Mark out of my life." Dan shook his head. "That's thinking like a victim, Eddie. You want my advice? Don't get mad. Get creative. Hit them where it hurts most." "What do you mean?" "Their pride," Dan said, grinning. "People like that. They can't stand being embarrassed. They can handle guilt, but shame? That's their kryptonite." I thought about that as I drove home. Hannah's car was in the driveway, along with her sister Paula's silver BMW. Paula was Hannah's older sister and closest confidant, a successful marketing executive who'd never liked me. She probably knew about the affair and was helping cover it up. I parked on the street and used my phone to activate the new security app I'd installed. Tiny cameras, no bigger than buttons, now monitored every room in our house. If Hannah and Mark wanted to play games, I'd document every move. Inside, I found Hannah and Paula in the kitchen, drinking wine and speaking in hushed tones. They stopped talking when I walked in. "Eddie?" Hannah said, her voice artificially bright. "I was just telling Paula about the new project at work. You remember Paula, right?" Paula gave me a thin smile. "Hello, Eddie. Hannah says you've been working late a lot." "Someone has to pay the bills," I said, grabbing a beer from the fridge. "Speaking of work, Hannah, how are those HR presentations coming along? The ones you've been working on with Mark?" Hannah's face flushed slightly. "Oh, those are going fine. Mark's been very helpful." "I bet he has," I said, taking a long sip of beer. "Well, don't let me interrupt. I'll be downstairs if you need anything." As I headed for the basement, I heard Paula whisper, "He doesn't suspect anything, does he?" Hannah's response was barely audible. "Eddie? Please. He's too trusting for his own good." Wrong, I thought. I'm too smart for your own good. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a different person. The trusting, easygoing Eddie was gone, replaced by someone calculating and methodical. I documented everything: Hannah's late nights, Mark's frequent visits, the expensive dinners charged to our credit card that I definitely hadn't attended. I also started spreading seeds of doubt. At Murphy's gym, I mentioned to the other regulars that Mark seemed to be having money troubles. Poor guy's been borrowing cash from Hannah, I said, loud enough for several people to hear. I hope he can pay her back. The rumor spread like wildfire. Within days, people at Mark's office were whispering about his financial problems. His boss even pulled him aside to ask if everything was okay at home. Meanwhile, I played the perfect husband. I brought Hannah flowers, cooked her favorite meals, and acted completely oblivious to her affair. The guilt was eating her alive, which made her even more reckless. One evening, I was working late at the office when I followed Mark to Hannah's favorite restaurant downtown. Through the window, I watched them share an intimate dinner, holding hands across the table like teenagers. I waited until they left, then approached their waiter. "Excuse me," I said, showing him my wedding ring. "That woman who was just here, that's my wife. I'm planning a surprise for our anniversary, and I was wondering if you could tell me what she ordered. She's always so secretive about her favorite dishes." The waiter, a young guy who probably thought he was helping with romance, told me everything: the expensive wine, the shared dessert, even how they'd been all over each other in the corner booth. Perfect. I had witnesses. The next morning, Hannah was unusually affectionate, probably overcompensating for her guilt. She made me breakfast and kept touching my arm while she talked about her day. "I might be late tonight," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Paula and I are going to that new wine bar downtown." "The one on 5th Street?" I asked innocently. "No, the one on, Maple Avenue." There was no wine bar on Maple Avenue. Strike two. That evening, I followed her again. This time, she went straight to Mark's apartment, a sleek high-rise downtown that I'd helped him move into 2 years ago. I parked across the street and watched the lights come on in his 15th floor unit. My phone buzzed with a text from Hannah. "Wine bar is packed. Might be here late. Love you." Strike three. The breaking point came on a Friday night at Riley's Pub, our old hangout spot. It was supposed to be our monthly guys' night: me, Mark, and 3 other friends from high school: Tom, Jake, and Steve. We'd been meeting there for years, solving the world's problems over beer and buffalo wings. I arrived first and grabbed our usual table in the back corner. Mark showed up 20 minutes later, looking relaxed and confident. He slapped me on the back like nothing had changed. "Eddie, how's it going, buddy?" "Can't complain," I said, signaling the waitress for another beer. "How about you? Keeping busy?" "Oh, you know me, always working on something." He winked, and I wanted to punch his smug face. Tom, Jake, and Steve arrived together, and for a while everything seemed normal. We talked about sports, complained about work, and shared stories about our kids, but I could feel the tension building in my chest like a pressure cooker. Then Mark made a mistake. "So, Eddie," he said after his 3rd beer, "Hannah mentioned you've been working a lot of late nights lately. Everything okay at home?" The table went quiet. Tom raised an eyebrow, and Jake shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Funny you should ask," I said, keeping my voice level. "Hannah's been working late, too. She's been collaborating with someone on a big project. Very hands-on work, from what I hear." Mark's smile faltered slightly. "Oh yeah? What kind of project?" "The kind that requires a lot of personal attention," I said, staring directly at him. "You know how it is when you're really committed to something? You put everything you have into it." Steve, who'd always been the peacekeeper of the group, tried to change the subject. "Hey, did you guys see the game last night?" But I wasn't done. "Actually, Mark, since you seem so interested in my marriage, maybe you can help me with something. Hannah's been getting these mysterious phone calls lately. Always steps out of the room to take them. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" Mark's face went red. "Eddie, I don't know what you're implying, but—" "I'm not implying anything," I said, standing up. "I'm stating facts. My wife has been lying to me. She's been sneaking around, making excuses, and covering her tracks. And the whole time, my so-called best friend has been helping her do it." The entire pub seemed to go silent. Other patrons were turning to look at our table. Mark stood up too, his chair scraping against the floor. "You're out of line, Eddie." "Am I?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. With a few taps, I brought up the security footage from my house. Hannah and Mark in my living room, kissing passionately while I was supposedly at work. I turned the screen toward our friends. Tom's jaw dropped. Jake muttered, Holy shit. Steve just stared in disbelief. 15 years of marriage, I said, my voice rising. 25 years of friendship. And this is what I get. Mark lunged at me, but I was ready. I sidestepped his clumsy swing and grabbed his wrist, twisting it behind his back. Years of working with my hands had made me stronger than he expected. "Get off me!" he shouted, struggling against my grip. "You want to know what's really funny?" I said, loud enough for half the bar to hear. "Hannah thinks you're some kind of prize. She doesn't know about your gambling debts, does she? Or the fact that you got fired from your last job for harassment?" Mark's face went white. "That's not true." "Isn't it?" I released his arm and stepped back. "Maybe I should ask Jennifer Morrison. Remember her? Your former secretary? The one who filed the complaint?" The crowd was getting larger now, phones coming out to record the confrontation. Mark looked around desperately, realizing that his reputation was being destroyed in real time. Tom, Jake, and Steve were backing away from the table, clearly wanting no part of this drama. "Come on, guys," Mark said, appealing to them. "You've known me for years. Eddie's obviously having some kind of breakdown." But Tom shook his head. "Man, if you're sleeping with his wife, that's messed up." "I can't believe this," Jake added. "We've been friends since high school." Steve was the most direct. "Mark, if this is true, you're gone to us." Mark's confident facade crumbled. "It's not what you think. Hannah and I, we connected. Eddie's been neglecting her for years." "So you decided to help yourself?" I said. "How noble of you." The bartender was approaching our table now, probably to kick us out before things got more out of hand. "You know what the best part is?" I said, pulling up another video on my phone. "Hannah doesn't know I've been recording everything, every lie, every secret meeting, every time she's told me she loves me while she's been screwing you behind my back." I held up the phone again, showing a clip of Hannah and Mark in my kitchen, making plans for their next rendezvous. "She's going to love seeing this in divorce court," I said. Mark made one last desperate grab for my phone, but I was faster. I pocketed it and stepped back, letting him stumble into an empty chair. "We're done here," I announced to the room. All of us. I walked out of Riley's pub, leaving Mark to face the crowd of shocked onlookers and former friends. Behind me, I could hear him trying to explain himself, but no one was listening. My phone buzzed with a text from Hannah. "How's Guy's night going?" I typed back. "Enlightening." The next morning, I woke up with crystal clear purpose. Hannah was still asleep beside me, probably exhausted from whatever lies she'd been spinning the night before. I slipped out of bed and went downstairs to make coffee, my mind racing with possibilities. By the time Hannah came downstairs, I had a plan. "Morning, sweetheart," I said, handing her a cup of coffee exactly the way she liked it. "Sleep well?" She looked surprised by my cheerful demeanor. Yes, fine. How was Guy's night?" "Interesting," I said. "Actually, I have some exciting news. I've been thinking about our marriage, and I realize I haven't been the husband you deserve." Hannah nearly choked on her coffee. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I want to make things right between us. So I've planned something special." I pulled out an envelope and handed it to her. "Open it." Inside was an invitation to our high school's 20-year reunion, which was happening that weekend at the Marriott downtown. "I know we weren't planning to go," I said, "but I think it would be good for us. A chance to reconnect, see old friends, remember why we fell in love in the first place." Hannah's face went pale. The reunion meant Mark would be there, along with all our mutual friends who now knew about the affair. "Eddie, I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, we're both so busy with work." "Nonsense," I said, taking her hands. "I already RSVP'd for both of us. It'll be perfect." What Hannah didn't know was that I'd spent the morning making phone calls. Tom, Jake, and Steve had already spread the story of last night's confrontation to everyone they knew. By the time we walked into that reunion, half our graduating class would know about Hannah's affair. The next few days were torture for Hannah. She kept making excuses to skip the reunion, but I shot down every one with enthusiastic determination to save our marriage. Meanwhile, I was busy with other preparations. I'd hired a private investigator to document Hannah and Mark's affair with professional quality evidence. Photos, videos, financial records showing Mark's gambling debts and Hannah's credit cards paying for their romantic dinners. I'd also been in touch with Hannah's boss at the marketing firm where she worked. It turned out that Hannah had been using company resources for personal business, including booking hotel rooms for her affair on the company credit card. But the masterstroke was Paula. Hannah's sister had always been the puppet master behind Hannah's decisions, and I suspected she knew about the affair from the beginning. So I set a trap. I called Paula and told her I was planning a surprise party for Hannah's birthday next month. I asked her to help me coordinate with Hannah's friends and coworkers. I want to invite everyone who's important to her, I said, including Mark, of course. They've been working so closely together lately. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Eddie, Paula said carefully, are you sure that's a good idea? Why wouldn't it be? Mark's my best friend. Well, he was until last night. Another pause. What happened last night? I told her about the confrontation at Riley's pub, making sure to mention that I had video evidence of the affair. Paula's voice got very quiet. Eddie, I think we need to talk. We met at a coffee shop downtown, and Paula came clean about everything. She'd known about the affair for months and had been helping Hannah cover it up. She'd even provided alibis for their secret meetings. I thought you didn't care, she said, tears in her eyes. Hannah said your marriage was basically over anyway. Did she also tell you that Mark's been using her credit cards to pay off his gambling debts? I asked. Paula's face went white. What? I showed her the financial records. Mark had been charging thousands of dollars to Hannah's accounts, money that came from our joint savings. He's not just cheating with your sister, I said. He's stealing from her too. By the time I left that coffee shop, Paula was ready to burn Mark alive. The reunion was held in the Marriott's grand ballroom, decorated with our school colors and filled with people I hadn't seen in 20 years. Hannah clung to my arm like a life preserver, her eyes darting around the room looking for Mark. She didn't have to look long. He was standing near the bar with a group of our former classmates, and the conversation stopped when they saw us approach. Eddie? Hannah, said our former class president, Jennifer Walsh. So good to see you both. The group's reaction was lukewarm at best. Word had definitely gotten around. Mark tried to play it cool, extending his hand to me like nothing had happened. Hey, Eddie. Good to see you, man. I stared at his outstretched hand for a long moment, then turned to address the group. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, I said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. It's so wonderful to see old friends and catch up on how everyone's lives have turned out. Hannah tugged at my sleeve, sensing danger. Some of us have built successful careers, I continued, my voice carrying across the room. Some of us have raised beautiful families, and some of us have learned important lessons about loyalty and trust. The ballroom was getting quieter as more people turned to listen. For instance, I said, pulling out my phone, I've learned that 25 years of friendship can be destroyed by 15 minutes of selfishness. I opened the video app and connected my phone to the room's AV system, a trick I'd arranged with the hotel's tech staff earlier that day. The large screens around the ballroom lit up with crystal-clear footage of Hannah and Mark in my living room, their affair displayed in high definition for everyone to see. The reaction was immediate and devastating. Gasps, shocked whispers, and the unmistakable sound of phones being pulled out to record the moment. Hannah screamed and tried to grab my phone, but I held it out of reach. Eddie, stop, please, she begged. Why? I said, switching to another video. You said I was too trusting, too clueless. Well, here's how clueless I really am. The next video showed Mark going through our mail, photographing our financial documents, then another of him copying files from Hannah's laptop. Mark's been stealing from us, I announced to the room. Identity theft, credit card fraud, invasion of privacy, all documented and ready for the police. Mark tried to run, but Tom and Jake blocked his path. They might have been disgusted by his behavior, but they weren't going to let him escape justice. And Paula, I said, turning to Hannah's sister, who had just arrived. Tell everyone how you helped coordinate their affair, how you provided alibis and covered up their lies. Paula looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor, but I wasn't finished. The best part, I said, switching to one final video, is that Hannah thought she was so clever. She thought she could play me for a fool and get away with it. The final video was Hannah and Mark in a hotel room, discussing their plans to divorce their respective spouses and run away together, using money stolen from our accounts. Too bad Mark's already married, I said. Oh, wait. Did Hannah not mention that part? The room exploded in chaos. Hannah collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Mark was shouting denials that no one believed. Paula was trying to slip out the back exit. But I had one last surprise. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, raising my voice over the commotion, I'd like you to meet Detective Sarah Collins from the Fraud Division of the City Police Department. A woman in a dark suit stepped forward from the crowd, showing her badge. Mark Stevens, she said, you're under arrest for identity theft, credit card fraud, and embezzlement. As the handcuffs clicked around Mark's wrists, I felt a sense of satisfaction I'd never experienced before. 20 years of planning, weeks of careful documentation, and one perfect moment of public humiliation. Hannah looked up at me through her tears. Eddie, please, We can work this out. I love you. No, I said, handing her an envelope. You love the idea of me. The safety, the stability, the man who would never fight back. But that man is gone. Inside the envelope were divorce papers, already filed and processed. You'll find I've been very generous, I said. You get half of everything that's left after Mark stole from us, which according to my calculations is about $12 and a coupon for free pizza. The crowd was dispersing now, people pulling out their phones to call friends and family with the gossip of the century. As I walked toward the exit, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Big Dan from the gym. Hell of a show, Eddie, he said, grinning. Remind me never to get on your bad side. I smiled back. Don't worry, Dan. I only go after people who deserve it. Outside the hotel, I got into my car and drove home to the house that was now entirely mine. Hannah's belongings were already packed and waiting by the front door, courtesy of the moving company I'd hired that morning. My phone buzzed with dozens of messages from old friends offering support and congratulations. The video of the reunion confrontation was already going viral on social media. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and sat on my front porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and red. For the first time in months, I felt truly peaceful. Tomorrow, I would start rebuilding my life. Tonight, I would savor the sweet taste of perfect revenge.